I want to have a conversation between the three amigos about what made us rich. But we're going to do this a little different. Instead of asking Matt what Matt thinks made him rich, we're going to have each other go around the horn. Matt's going to talk about Dion. Dion will talk about myself. And of course, I will talk about Matt. We're going to do this a couple of times, and then we're going to see what we see. So, Matt, what do you think it is about Dion that made him rich?
Laziness. No, I'm teasing. I think Dion's pursuit of knowledge is what made him wealthy. I think that's what made him wealthy. I think Dion pursues, he's never the guy that just goes, whatever. Like he actually looks into it. And, the Tommy Boy line, you can get a good look at a bull's ass by sticking your head up there, or you can take the butcher's word for it. I think that Dion does the work himself. Dion goes out, he does the research, he asks questions, he talks to other people. So I think that Dion is really well researched. And so for me, I think the biggest thing for Dion is his pursuit of knowledge and understanding. Because it's one thing to be able to read it in a book and just go, yeah, it says it in that book, but he actually understands it. So, do you have to be smart too? Yeah, you got to be smart too. But in pursuit of that knowledge, when you pursue that and you pursue it to the level of understanding where you can make it your own, that's a superpower. That's something that people can then do pretty much anything.
Yeah, love that. All right, Dion, your turn. Talk a little bit about myself. What do you think made me rich?
So I like the Socratic method of debate. That's where my understanding of it is the people express the other person's opinion to the other person's satisfaction, and then they can start the debate. So this is a version of that, I think. And I think the safe bet is to go, Mr. Zuber is only successful because of Mrs. Zuber. That's the scapegoat method. Right. And the reality, I think I took some notes here. I think the thing that made you the most successful is understanding your hubris and when you got smacked in the face by stocks. I did really well in the beginning, so I can't make a mistake. Then losing, whatever it was, 196,000 down to 40,000, realizing, okay, maybe you aren't perfect at investing. So you turned your education, your ability to translate your econ degree into actionable steps with market awareness. Not just buying rentals made your portfolio as big as it is. I think it was that shift going 8 to 80 when you saw the market, when you went, I think, to the Norris event, and he said, are you looking at affordability? Look what's happening. And actually being able to take your risk tolerance and apply it to actionable steps. I think, so I don't think it was the market that made you rich. I think it was you being aware of the market and being willing to take risks as the market changed that got you there.
I like it. When I think about Matt, the lumberjack, the first thing that comes to mind, what made him rich, is he doesn't follow kind of standard rules, right? He owns all of his decisions, which makes him powerful, and he doesn't accept limiting beliefs, right? You don't become a ninth grade dropout on purpose and then go on, to scrape and grind and become an executive at a company, and oh by the way, have a large family and do all of these things with limiting beliefs. There's just an internal fire belief that he is going to make it happen no matter what. And of course it wasn't easy. Lots of mistakes, going from whatever it was, 7 rentals, paying tenants to 1. And I mean, there's all kinds of off ramps that he could have taken and failed and sat on his ass, but he just never stopped fighting. Both it's innate in him to just keep going. And I think he was destined to be successful or rich. The only argument was, how long was it going to take? Because I think a lot of people just don't have that, right? That the first sign of adversity, or maybe it's the second sign of adversity, they just they sit down and wallow. So that was one of the things that I saw. I saw in Matt. Let's actually change this up. Dion, why don't you talk about? We'll go the opposite direction now. Dion, what do you think is something that made Matt rich?
I think Matt's lazier than I am, and he knows that at some point he's not going to want to work.
So
And
true.
so having assets that produce the money so that he can do what he wants when he wants is a bigger motivation than I think Matt would ever say in a video. He usually says, here's what I did, here was the outcome, instead of, I wanted the outcome where I don't have to sell my life 1 hour at a time, where I don't want a boss, where I don't want a schedule, where I don't want an alarm clock. And I think, like me, that type of laziness is a powerful motivator.
Yeah, I like that. All right, Matt, talk about me. What's something you saw that made me rich?
So Calvin Coolidge, who is a very often quoted ex-pres, said, persistence alone is omnipotent. And it's exhausting watching you. It's exhausting. So it was funny because we became quick friends because I recognized that I'm broken the same way. And I was just like, this guy just gets it. And he's just like, list, task, hammer out, list, task, hammer out, list, task, hammer out. And so you won't find anybody that's more efficient than you. You won't find anybody that just recognizes this is the formula for success, which is doing the work, constant grind, and, and then measurable, quantifiable results. We've spent our entire lives being measured.
Mm-hmm.
And very often it is in the positions that we were in, just like with Dion too, it was people being measured that we had to select and put in places and help them get to a level of success. It wasn't. And so our success was dependent on others' success, but it was us removing barriers. And so I think for you, with growing 3 product lines like you did, to 9 figures, I think you learn very quickly. You can't lead people. You can't lead them if you need them.
Mm-hmm.
But you lead by example. And the example is you're not going to out grind. You're not going to out hustle. And I think for all of us, that got all of us into pretty big positions. Carrying the chip on my shoulder about being a 9th grade dropout and then having people make fun of me. I had no problem taking a picture of my paycheck and sending it to them.
I love that.
So I think that you're very much, I think you and I are a lot that so I think you're very much the persistence alone is omnipotent, and, planning to work and, working to plan and a failure to plan is a plan to fail. So I think that you do a really good job of kind of setting up what needs to happen, setting up the structure, and then executing within a structure.
Yeah, love that. So when I think about Dion and what made Dion rich, and I give him so much credit for this, because again, I think like Matt said, he kind of plays this lazy landlord, but he researches and digs in a lot. And I think where Dion is uniquely gifted is he could I always kind of say that Dion could see the future, right? Dion knew where he was going to end up. And again, he had to start the first 2 years of his journey were, renting an apartment, getting out of the lake house, and, putting so he can have a W-2. I mean, he just saw the plan and just started knocking down dominoes. And, that is a true gift that I simply don't have, right? I am comfortable looking at today and maybe tomorrow, but I'm convinced Dion could see years into the future and knew where he was going to end up. Would it be 8 years or 10 years? I don't know. But when you could see the future in Technicolor, it gives you this almost peace and comfort, because you're just working the plan, and you're going to have endless time to go to Colombia or Thailand or wherever he's going, all these places to scuba dive. So that's what I always saw in Dion, and frankly jealous of that gift. So let's go to Matt now. We'll go to you, Matt. What do you think? You've heard us give you a couple of things. Agree, disagree. What do you think the thing was for you?
I knew early on that I had to fight. So is what it is. The good news is that I'll fight about anything. The bad news is that I'll fight about anything.
About anything, yeah, good and bad, yeah.
You know, and so it's like somebody's like, no, and the other piece for me is, you know, to your point, it was, you know, justice for me. Like, I'm a big justice guy. I want what's fair, and I want what's right to happen, and so I'll die on that hill to make sure that that happens. And so, yeah, I think for me it was recognized that I wasn't special, that I had things that other people were going to consider weaknesses, and so it was just shut up and do the work. And that's why I struggle so much. I have a hard time with empathy when it comes to somebody accomplishing a goal. I'm not an excuse maker. They're always the reason that they didn't accomplish the goal. And so I can't do what Dion does and be nice to people about that sort of stuff. I just can't, because, you know, I understand what it took to do it. I had far more strikes against me than anybody else, and I just did it. And it was, yes, I was blessed, but it wasn't without doing nothing. You know, people that, you know, that want to talk about being blessed or being lucky or any of those things, you know, it says very plainly that the work of your hands are blessed. So you actually have to be working and doing something. So I think the other big thing that I got over really fast was fear of failure. You know, everyone's just like, you're going to fail. Okay. And I'll find out a way to not do it. So I think just that persistence, being real with myself, being just brutally honest with myself. No one's more honest with me than me. So, you know, I know when I suck at something, and I think far too many people spend time on things that they suck at trying to get better instead of becoming really elite at the 2 or 3 things they're really good at. So I think you hire those out. I think you know, work with somebody else. My wife is the nicest, sweetest, kindest person, super, you know, sympathy and
Ashley,
empathy. And she's an amazing mom, and she's all those things. And, you know, she makes up for that really big weakness in me.
Oh, I like that. I like that. All right, Dion, what do you think? What made you rich?
I'll start with the silly first. What made me rich is my absolute weakness for women. And I'm 3 foot 31 inches tall, so I look like this, and I like to have women around. And as Millennial Mike has said many times, I look really good standing on my wallet. So there was a motivation there to be successful. But anything, now the serious answer, anything that was said about me in this video that could have come across as a compliment didn't happen until I was 40. You could see the future. You can find peace in making a plan and sticking to it. Up to 40, I didn't even think about money. I tried for a pension in the Marines. They downsized from after Desert Storm. I tried for a pension in law enforcement. They downsized after the housing crash. It wasn't until, and I can actually directly tie this together, I got the job at the CDL school. And I'll try to put this in as simple terms as I can think of. I was a truck driver about 17 years on and off throughout my whole life. I've never known how the air system works. So truck drivers out there, I knew at some point a buzzer comes on. The brakes lock up if you run out of air. I didn't know any of the numbers. I've never double clutched. 17 years, I didn't even know I knew everybody talked about it. My first guy that taught me, you know, like, hey, jump in the logging truck and take these logs to town. He said, don't touch the clutch though, because that's expensive. And so I learned how to do it without it. I got the job at the CDL school, and I had to learn how to teach things I'd never done. So at the school, they taught me the things I didn't know. And I realized how much better I became at driving once I looked at it from the lens of the highest form of learning is teaching. And so when I can articulate what happens to the RPMs when you're shifting and why double clutching can work, I started thinking, if I was going to own a rental, if I was going to have a lease, if I was going to hire a handyman, how would I do this if I had to teach it to somebody? And so that mindset of, if I was going to tell somebody, why am I investing in real estate? A quick lesson is, well, if I can buy one property every 2 years, in 10 years, I'll have 5. That's a better financial future. Instead of, I have to know everything, I have to find the perfect deal. It was looking at, if I was going to teach this to somebody, how would I do it? And that shift happened at 40. And I think learning how to be a teacher impacted everything I do in life outside of teaching. And so I'm really glad I got that job there. and I'm really glad I was able to walk away from it too.
I love that. Yeah. So when I think about what made me rich, again, I've only understood this after leaving work, but my ability to focus and have daily execution on whatever my chosen goal is without question a superpower. It's a unique gift. You know, I am comfortable living in the mud and doing the work day in and day out long after most people give up. You know, I looked at my one tiny buy box for 3 years. You know, I did 1,000 videos on YouTube before being monetized. I mean, when I look back at some of the crazy ass things I've done that most people wouldn't even do 1/10 of, I'm a little, you know, I don't think I've ever said this. I'm a little in awe of some of those things, like 1,000 videos on YouTube before I got monetized. I mean, most people freak out at 10, right? And doing 1,000 was like, shit, I was ready to do 2,000 or 3,000. I was just doing it.
Or 16.
Yeah, or 16,000. Exactly. It just wasn't a thought that, wow, this is crazy. Right. And now I look at channels, and most channels only have 100 or 200 videos. And I'm like, shit, I did 1,000 before I was monetized. So I'm in awe of some of that, but it is just what I'm comfortable and frankly, what I'm happy doing. And it also leads to the weakness. The thing I'm jealous about Dion is, you know, I can't see past tomorrow. And I think I've only got comfortable looking at tomorrow after I retired and talked to you guys. Like, you guys doubled my vision, right? I used to be just comfortable today. Now I feel like I've got more time in the world. I got tomorrow. So, you know, it's like 100% improvement. Thank you. And then I think you're right. One of the things, again, that I'm in awe of now is I'm willing to execute, but also take in new data. Like Matt said, right? I went to that Norris event, which I didn't know who he was from Adam. He talked about a California crash. And to Dion's point, I'd already lost 80% of my wealth once, and I wasn't going to do that again. So I dug in. I became convinced in, 48 to 72 hours that he was right and I had a problem. And then I executed like crazy. We went from 8 to 80 and I got out of the way, and I wasn't hurt by the housing crash. In fact, I was, I'm rich because of it. So some people think I got lucky. It wasn't luck. It was, focus, execution, new data, new data, change, like pivot, new path, like get off this one. This one's there's a cliff ahead. Get off the cliff.
Mm-hmm.
So I love all of that, but I am so lucky that my superpower is the ability to work and out execute. I mean, it's a gift I didn't even know I had, and I'm so I'm sitting here tingling because it's fun to admit that what often I thought was a weakness was actually a strength. So pretty cool. So we'll go around, Matt, if you want to have any closing thoughts about getting rich or what makes you unique, but please tell people where they can find you as well.
Sure. Lumberjack Landlord. You can find me on YouTube and Instagram. Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern time. I'll just answer your questions about real estate investing and any questions that you have about real estate in general. But I think that, all of us did the work to get to where we got to today. There's no shortcuts. There's shorter paths, but everybody wants to. I was talking to a student and they were like, I'm going to do four deals this year. And I was like, no. I was like, be more realistic, and recognize that, those big aspirational goals, those are fine. But what are the steps that you're going to do every single day to get you to that goal? And that's where most people, they can't even formulate the path. But then on top of not being able to formulate the path, they also then don't execute. And unless it's easy, they quickly DQ. They quickly disqualify themselves. So yeah, I think that what the three of us have done a really good job at is that we recognized, even when it was the first video or the first house or the first whatever, like we gave ourselves some slack. We knew we were going to make mistakes and recognized that, okay, learn and move on and do the next thing. So hopefully people recognize that that's what makes it look easy. I had to have a conversation with somebody and literally say to them, I go, you thought you could do what I could do at year 1 when I'm in year 24.
Yeah. I love that. Dion, same thing, closing thoughts and where they can find you?
You can find me right here on YouTube, Dion Talk Financial Freedom, where I do a live stream every Tuesday that lasts as long as the questions do. If you have kids most people have the goal of creating generational wealth and handing over an empire to your kids when you pass. That wasn't my motivation. My motivation was, first, I think creating generational wealth and your kids knowing about it can be a big hindrance on them actually being productive themselves. But I was concerned with becoming a financial burden to my kids when I was too old to work. I've seen a lot of families, people my age, that are now taking care of their parents because they're a loving, supporting family. And the truth is, their parents made bad financial decisions for 70 years and are now a burden to their kids. And on top of that, the last thing I want when I can't work anymore is my kids taking care of me. I saw how they dealt with pets. I want the money to hire a paid professional, so I'm taken care of when I can't go to work anymore. And so finding out what your motivation is, whether it is you're lazy and you don't want to have a job, or you want a better financial future, or you want to provide more for your kids, hold on to that. And then, to take from Matt's terminology, figure out what your action goals are, right? Not your outcome goals. We can live on hopium and say, I want to get 4 deals done this year, but you can have action goals and say, I will look at deals for 30 minutes a day. I will meet 2 new people every month that are involved in this industry. You can control certain things. Work on what you can control.
Love that. Again, folks, we do the daily financial news show, one rental at a time, 5 days a week, Sunday through Thursday. At the end of the day, something I've learned from all 12 millionaires that come back each and every week is we all started in what you would call today bad places. We all went on a multi-year, decade journey to becoming rich, and it is possible. The first 5 years suck. It takes 10 years to get rich. And the last thing I'll say is I think all of you can do it. You just got to get out of your own head and start doing the work. Guys, thank you so much. Take care.
Mike.